Welcome, welcome. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
And of course, this week's parsha is Parsha Toldot. Sorry, it's Parsha, but yeah, let's see, vaYetzei, vaYetzei. The weeks are going too quickly for me. Last week was Toldot. We're already on to vaYetzei. And so we're reading about Jacob's sojourn with Laban. We're coming almost to the end of it now that Joseph was born after he had spent 14 years there. And there was another 6 years he's asked Laban to pay him, and he's going to have to wind up being with Laban for another 6 years. He actually winds up 20 years with Laban. And they're discussing his salary at this point. So, and they've already decided that any sheep or goats that have speckled spots or stripes, etc., or reddish brown, whatever, they'll belong to Jacob, and anything that isn't that way belongs to Laban. That's the way it's going to be. And not only that, I mean, anything already that has those, Laban can take, give to it. It's all whatever is future, born into the future there. So here we go. V'anta b'tzidkati b'yom machor. And it's an interesting phrase. It's got to be an idiom of some kind, right? It means, and my righteousness shall answer for me tomorrow. Ki tavo al schari lefanecha, that you will come to my wages before you. Again, Hebrew is not the easiest here. Kol asher einenu nakod v'talu ba'izim. In other words, anything that is not spotted or striped amongst the goats, v'chum b'ksavim, or reddish brown in the lambs and the sheep, ganuvhu iti, that you should consider I stole it. I stole it. So nothing but those kind of sheep or goats. Let's take a look at see what Rashi says. Va'anta bi tzikati, right? So again, I mean, we're begging Rashi to explain the syntax and the meaning of the sentence. So he says, Im tichashdeni, should you suspect me, she'ani noten milshacha, that I'm taking something of yours, klum ta'aneh mi tzikati. Indeed, my righteousness will answer for me. In other words, you'll have the proof that I haven't taken anything, I haven't stolen anything from you. Ki tavot tzidkati, because my righteousness, literally it means will come, v'he'id, and will give testimony, will witness, al schari lefanecha, regarding my wages before you, shelo tinsa be'adari, because you, or adarai it could be, that you will not find amongst my flocks, ki im nekudim utluim, only, you will only find spotted and striped sheep, and you can consider anything that you find amongst them that isn't spotted or streaked, or chum, or red, but biyadua, you can know, sheganav tiv, that lacha, that I have stolen it from you, uvigniva u sharui etzli, and the fact that it's there with me is because it was stolen. You're going to see. Okay. Thank you, Rashi. Vayomer Lavan, and Lavan said, "Hey, indeed, lu yehi kidvarecha. May it just be according to your words. In other words, just the way you said. That's a deal. It's a deal." Hein lashon kabbalat varim. So when you say hein, Rashi says it has the connotation of accepting words. In other words, affirming, some kind of like that, right? Lu yehi, right? Kidvarecha, it should only be according to your words. Halavaish, shetichpotz b'chach. May it, you should only be satisfied with this. Okay, going on. Vayasar bayom hahu et hatayashim ha'akudim v'atluim, and he removed on that day the siatayish, I believe, is the sheep, right? Or maybe it means the rams. Although I think that's an ayil. So, regardless, I think it has to do with the sheep, let's say, ha'akudim, that were patched, v'hatluim, and that were spotted, v'et kol ha'izim ha'nekudot, and all the goats that were speckled, according to Svaria, v'hatluot again, that were spotted, kol asher lavan bo, anything that had white in it, v'chol chum b'ksavim, and all the reddish brown amongst the sheep. Vayiten bayad banav, and he placed them in the hands of his sons. He removed them. There weren't any of those left in the flock. So I'm not sure. I have to tell you, as I've gone over this again, and by the way, I can tell you that we are getting into I have mentioned this before, it's a very arcane section of the Torah, really and truly understanding why is the Torah teaching us this? What is the lesson that the Torah is teaching? And I have to tell you, to this point, I have not been able to really determine anything that's satisfying in terms of answering that question. So, uh, so, so what the point that I was going to make is that I'm not sure that actually Jacob told Laban to do this, right? Right. Although here it's sounding almost and I truthfully until I prepared this most recently, I thought this was a clear act of cheating on the part of Laban. But I think Jacob tells him to do it. I think Jacob actually agreed that he should do that, and that it would only be, in other words, he was trying to put Lavan in a position where Lavan thought he'd be able to outwit him and make sure that he didn't get anything, because obviously he wouldn't have any male sheep or females that had that genetic trait in them. And here he is giving them to his sons. He's removing them. And Jacob's not going to be left with any sheep that actually have that characteristic, right? And not only that, look at the next sentence, and then we'll get back to the Rashi, see what Rashis there are. Vayasem derech shloshet yamim beinu uven Yaakov, and he placed a distance of 3 days between himself and between Jacob. Vayakov ro'eh et son Lavan hanotarot, and Jacob was shepherding or pasturing the sheep of Lavan that were remaining. Actually, Tzon Lavan, although I'm sure here Lavan, at least on its surface, refers to Lavan, but we also know that Lavan means white, and whether or not there's any ambiguity here that he was shepherding white sheep that were remaining, that certainly would make sense. And we'll see. Let's see. Vayaser, Lavan Vayomahu, right? And Lavan on that day, etc., removed. Hatayashim. Okay, here we go. I'm grateful because I think I translated as sheep. It's not sheep. Thank you, Rashi. Again, Izim Scharim. Zatayish is a male goat. Male goats. Kol asher lavan bo, kol asher haita bo, chaba burut levanot. So, in other words, anything that had white patches, white spots. Okay. Vayiten Lavan biyad banav, and he placed them in the hands of his sons. He removed them. Hanotarot, so which were remaining. And Rashi says, Hare'uot, the ones that were defective shebahin. In other words, Lavan was this kind of person. He was really a big cheat. And maybe the Torah is talking to us about, people who try to cheat and get ahead through cheating. And Lavan, of course, is their great granddaddy, right? Hacholot, so the defective ones, hacholot, those who were sick, va'akarot, and the ones that were barren, she'enan ela shirayim, right? That only those that were sort of leftovers, right? The runts of the flock, otan masarbo, those are the ones he gave to Jacob.
So did you read line 36? Because you put two Rashis together, I thought.
Yes, I did. Well, this 36 was how he placed 3 days distance between himself and
Yeah,
Jacob. I
okay.
did read that. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, I did intentionally because it sort of felt like it ran together.
Okay.
Now comes a really very, very puzzling piece of Torah because what we're going to see, I mean, it could be that scientifically this has been proven, but I'm going to tell you it is I haven't ever done the research to see if there's any scientific basis to what this is happening here. Is it supposed to be symbolic? It's just really very, very strange. So, Vayikach lo Yaakov Makel Livne. By the way, I think this is intentional. This play on words, Lavan Livne, right? Vayikach lo Yaakov. Jacob took for himself a stick. I think Livne is poplar. Poplar of so this would be lach would be wet. In other words, it's not dried out. It's fresh poplar. The luz, the armon. Lauren, I'm going to need your help with the translation here. For some reason, I do not have this here. What's luz and armon? These are all different kinds of trees, I believe. Do you have your translation with you?
Yeah, I just
I see hazel and chestnut.
Thank you. Thanks, Mead.
yeah,
Okay. All
I
right.
see
Thank you.
aspen, but I just lost my place. So what do you know what Aliyah we're on?
It's chapter the seventh Aliyah, and it's verse
Yeah.
37. Armon is chestnut mead.
Chestnut is how it's translated in the art scroll.
Okay, okay. And luz is hazel or
Okay,
aspen.
it's not the seventh.
It isn't.
It might be the sixth.
Maybe I
I'm
thought it
trying to find
was.
my. I had my place, but then I was trying to move the page,
It's okay. It happened. Look,
and it
sorry.
went to a.
Fifth Aliyah. I'm incorrect. Fifth Aliyah. Sorry.
Okay.
There we go. I thought we were further down than we were. Okay. Okay. So, all right. So you can see that it is difficult, right? It is always difficult to translate names of species. Okay.
Yeah, mine says
So,
aspen, hazel, and chestnut.
so Livne is aspen. He's translating as aspen.
That's what Chabad says.
Okay. All right.
Aspen,
I'll
then
be
hazel,
happy
then
to,
chestnut.
I will put that in. Let me find, let me,
And an art scroll has poplar.
it does. So I
Yeah.
wasn't completely off base.
No, not at all.
Okay.
That's why
But,
you're so popular.
ha, ha, ha. You've been waiting a long time to say that, right? Okay, what you're saying that's Aspen, right?
Oh, Chabad says that.
Yes, no, 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 I understand. It's okay. It's good.
I won't make a ruling between Chabad and Art Scroll.
Right. No, no, they're both, I find them pretty reliable on the whole. But as I said, it's difficult. It's difficult to actually find. And by the way, the Talmud often will help here. This is the people, the rabbis of the Talmud will very often go into asking what these words mean and trying to give them modern or contemporary translations. So going on, Vayatzel bahin, and he peeled. What he did was he peeled the bark off them. Salot levanot. So these peelings were again. Look at this. The word Lavan. How Lavan. How it occurs so many times, right? Machsof halavan. Asher hamaklot. And again, forgive me, I'm going to need to ask you for help on this word machsof. So we're really studying this together. How do they translate machsot? So again, the
It
white
says
stuff is
peeled white stripes in them by exposing the
yes,
underlying white layer.
right. That's got to be an explanation. So strips is machsot. Would we call strips white strips?
It says stripes, but it's sure it's the same
Okay,
thing.
okay, yeah. I think I'm going to put strips. Okay, because I'm visualizing him taking these sticks and peeling them and coming up with
Well,
strips of,
then what is pitzalot? Because I think pitzalot is
oh,
the word
yes.
for strips, and then
Okay.
machsof maybe
Yeah. Okay. So to me, understand machsof would be like a shaving, something that you've shaved off.
uh Well, Rashi's going to deal with it, so maybe that'll help.
Okay, I'm sure it will if we can understand Rashi. Okay, let's take a look. Again, the Hebrew is not easy, period. I mean, just isn't. Okay. Makel livne. So he says, Eitz he, it's a type of tree. Ushmo livne, it's called a livne. Kama de tema, as one says, or as is stated in Hosea 4, tachat alon velivne, right? So alon, I think, is very often an oak tree, and under a livne tree, right? For Omer Ani, and I say, the Rashi's now speaking personally, doesn't do that very often, right? He is usually quoting, but or referencing something else. He says, and I say, Hu shekorin, look at this, tren bil, whatever, right? Shehu Laban, and this is the German, the Yiddish for it, and it's aspen, Espenholz. So Rashi translates this as an aspen. Lach Lach is kishu ratuv, when it's still fresh, it's still damp, still moist. Veluz, and again, ve'od lakach makel luz, right? He also took a piece of wood called luz, eitz shegedelin bo egozim. So that's a hazelnut. And egos, if I'm not mistaken, is, I think it is. I'm trying to think. I don't think it's an almond. Could be. No, that's a shaked. Shaked is an almond. So egos, I think, is a hazelnut, right? So hazelnut, dakim, that would be small. And again, look at this. Here we go. Hazelnuss. And struch. This is the Yiddish here. So this is the look at how Rashi's using French because it's so hard to translate these, right? So apparently this is also some kind of hazel. Right? Okay. For Armon, another one. Look at this, right? Okay. And this is looks like Kstes Kshen. I can't even pronounce it, how he's writing the French. And the Yiddish is Kostanis. Okay, Boim, chestnut tree. So look at how we have these various translations of what kind of trees he was taking. So Rashi translates Armon as a chestnut. Psalot, okay, or psilot, klufim. So he's talking about where these are strips of bark, right? Shehi usehu minumar. That what happens is it's minumar would be like spotted, right? These shavings were spotted.
It says Shehaya
Yeah,
Osehu.
yeah, which he would, right?
Right.
Shahaya osehu minumar, which he would make for himself, osehu, he'd make them or it spotted. The word namer is leopard. Let's see, I want to make sure I've got this correctly.
It says, yeah, minimum.
Yeah, let's
It
see.
says streaked here, but
Yeah, okay. Although leopards are spotted and not to be spotted, so okay,
right.
whatever, right? Let's find it. Okay, Machsof Halavan, he says, Galui Luvan Shel Maked. So Lovin Shel Maked. So this Galui is basically revealed, right? Exposed, I would say. The Lovin, I don't know if this means the sap, because again, it's from the word. So sap we know is white, right?
It
So
just says the white of the sticks.
yeah,
So
right.
I think
Yeah.
what they mean is the wood
Oh,
under the
that's
bark.
true. That's true. Yeah, I think you're right, Lauren. I think you're right. Let's see. Okay, let's put, uh, so I'd say Galui is exposed.
Yeah, revealing.
Sorry. Okay. Keshahaya kilfor, right? When he would scrape them, right? When he'd remove the bark. Haya nir'eh v'nigle lo v'nshelo. That's exactly what you were saying. That the white would be seen and exposed. It's the white, b'makom hakiluf, in the place where it had been scraped. So we're getting a fairly clear picture of what Jacob was doing, but we'll see what the what the results are. It's amazing, right? Okay, so let's keep going. Vayatzeg et hamaklot asher pitzel, and he placed the sticks which he had stripped. Okay, barahatim in this would be the watering troughs. Bashikatot hamayim, right? So he'd put them in the troughs in the sluices of the watering troughs, something like that. Asher tavona hatzon lishtot, when the sheep, this would be the ewes, because tavona is female, lishtot, right? So the ewes would come to drink, and he placed these pieces of wood, these stripped pieces of wood, in at these watering troughs, right? Lenochach hatzon, opposite the sheep. Vayechamna bavoan lishtot, and they went in heat. They got to be in heat when they came to drink. So again, very hard to understand. This is definitely deep stuff here going on, right? vaYetzei tirgumo u de itz, right? So so it says the Aramaic is this word vida'itz, and again, Lauren or Amid, if you have a translation there, I'll take it in. Anything?
I'm looking for the word.
It's
The
in
word,
chapter 38. It's verse 38 in the Rashi.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's there's a ton of it.
I don't
Yes,
see meats,
da'itz here,
but
da'itz.
eats, I don't see that
Yeah.
either.
Okay, I'm going to have to look it up. Okay.
Yeah.
Lashon tchiva, this has the
Oh, I
meaning
see
of,
it.
it means something to
Third word.
pull. All right, litchov means to pull, or neitza, and that's like to place in on the earth. You know what I mean? It's just like stick
It
into
says
the ground, something like
inserting
that.
and inserting and
There
sticking
we go.
in.
Yes. Okay. He belashon aramit in Aramaic. This da'itz means to stick into the ground, something like that. So I'm going to put that here. Uh, okay. The harbe yesh b'Gemara. He says there are many examples of this word da'itz in the Gemara, and he gives examples. Datsa ushalfa. Right. So again, this expression there. Gives other examples. Dots by midi, he sticks something in, midi is something, into it. Ditsa kamo da'atsa, right? So he says the word datsa is like da'atsa with the ayin in it. Ela shem mekatzer et lashono. But what happens is that it gets elided, this ayin gets elided in the pronunciation and in the spelling of it. Rahatim, so rahatim are like sluices, they're troughs. Bimerut sot hamayim. So in other words, where the water is pouring through, right? Bevrechot ha'asuyot, in the pools that were made ba'aretz, in the earth, lishkot et sham hatzon, in order to water the sheep. So they'd have fresh running water in which it's basically running waters that we're talking about. Asher tavonu. So in other words, to which would come barahatim, in the rahatim, these troughs, right? Asher tavon hatzon lishtot sham, right? So in other words, he placed them there in that because the ewes here, right, would come to drink there. Hitzig hamaklot lenochach hatzon. So right opposite where they would come to drink, he'd place these particular sticks. vaYechamna. So again, all this difficult Hebrew here, Bereshit Rabbah and Bereshit Rabbah, it says, Habahema ro'a et hamakalot, the animal sees these sticks, vehi nirta'at la'achoreha, and she would jump backwards, v'hazachar v'rova, and so the male would then mount her. Veyoledet kiyotzebo, and she would then subsequently give birth similar, as I think Kiyotzebo means etc. Rabbi Oshaya Omer. So Rabbi Oshaya says, Hamayim ne'esim zera b'meihen. He says that, I mean, this is incredible stuff. And when I say incredible, I mean literally incredible, hard to believe, right? Rabbi Oshaya said that the water actually becomes seed, right? Or like the sperm b'meihen in their womb, in the innards. V'lo hayu tzrichot lazachar, and in fact, they did not require a male. V'zehu vayechamnu, and this is the meaning of saying they went in heat, right? But what it means basically is that they became pregnant, is the way Rabbi Hoshai is saying. Ritzono lomar, right? In other words, what he's trying to say, b'teva zo, right? With I think he means with this word. Hitchabru lashon zachar unekeva, that the male and the female became attached. Kamosha Katov, this is Harav Abraham ben Ezra. So this is clearly a editorial note in the Rashi. This is not Rashi itself, right? Rabbi Avraham ben Ezra. So we're talking about Rabbi Ibn Ezra's commentary. He also wrote a commentary on the Torah, and I believe Ibn Ezra is very part of his commentary, makes his commentary unique, is the degree to which he explains the language itself. That's his take on this. Going on, so we're into the thick of it now.
Mine looks like
Yeah.
it might be helpful
Go on.
about the word
Yechamna.
v'yachamna.
Go on. Yes,
It
go on.
says it contains characteristics of both male, the yud, and
Okay.
female, the na, and
I see.
associating the heat with the act of drinking.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. No, that is very
So
helpful.
I don't totally understand it, but that's what
No.
seems.
Okay. So this would make sense that this would be a commentary from Ibn Ezra. You see what I mean? That he's saying that word has both male and, masculine and feminine elements to it. So that's why. Yeah, the na at the end, definitely. Okay, so if you want me to analyze this a little bit better, which I can do, okay? So if we want to get up here a secondly where it says it here, right? Where it says vayechamna. Let me find it here. This vayechamna. So the ye, right, is masculine because te would be feminine. So the ye here of a future tense is a masculine part, and the na at the end is female. And so what Ibn Ezra is doing is looking at this word and seeing how it incorporates both masculine and feminine elements in the grammar itself. Is that helpful in terms of explaining? All right. Let's keep going. Vayechemu hatzon el hamakalot, and the sheep went in heat at the sticks. Vatelad na hatzon. See this na at the end, right? Feminine, and te, feminine, and hatzon, and the sheep, the ewes, gave birth. Akudim, nikudim, utluim. So, in other words, basically, they're talking about speckled and spotted and streaked. Those were the lambs. They looked like that. Amazing, amazing. But again, not only from from a biological point of view, but again, what is the Torah really trying to tell us in giving us this detail, these kinds of details? And again, because my assumption is that the Torah is essentially sacred literature, if it's literature, it means it must have some deeper meaning that it's trying to convey. But still, hopefully, I will find out someday, right? Let's take a look. Okay, 39 here. El hamaklot, right, to the sticks. El marot hamakalot. So in other words, at the site of the sticks. Now, whether marot here means the reflection of the sticks, it could be. Really, they were coming down, they were drinking, and the water itself would be interesting. I'm just trying to visualize this now. So we're looking at running water, and the running water is reflecting these sticks. And how would that running water look? It would look streaked and spotted and what have you, because it's running water. So in terms of the reflection. So again, what the biology is here, I cannot explain, but I'm just trying to understand it on a very basic level. Akudim, right? Mishunim b'makom akudatan, right? So keep going. Hem karsule yedehem veraglehem. So it says, so where they would, so akidat, oh, I understand. So remember we talked about Isaac's, the akedah, the binding. So he's saying, Rashi's telling us that this word akudim is a reference to their legs, because the idea of the binding was they would bind the legs of the animal before they slaughtered it, so that I imagine so they could stop it from kicking around and stuff like that and moving. So it says they would look unique in the place where they would be bound, right? And he says, and that's he says specifically, we're talking about the ends of their forelegs and their hind legs. If you have anything different from what I'm saying to you, please just speak up, and I'd be happy to hear what you have to say.
It just says ankles.
Yes, exactly. So yeah. So I'm going to say karsul must be an ankle. I'll translate it right there. Oops, sorry about that. Let's try again. Thank you. And of course, that is where they'd be bound. Okay. All right. Going on to the next. Okay. Let's find the place. Okay. Vahaksavim, he freed Yaakov, and I believe he's talking about a lamb that Jacob separated the lambs. Vayiten pnei hatzon el akad. Wow, this is just, the Hebrew is just really challenging, right? And he placed the pnei hatzon would be the faces, right? The faces of the sheep, el akad, right? To again, if akad means here like the ankles, something like that. The kol chum and any other. Remember, we also had to have the reddish brown, betzon lavan. Right? So again, does Lavan here mean the Laban? Vayashet lo adarim levado, and he placed them into separate flocks. He separated these flocks. Velo shatam el tzon Lavan, but he did not place them along with the sheep of Lavan. Remember, Lavan had left over these defective sheep, right? So I think what it's saying here is that he did not he was able to produce these particular sheep, right? And that yes, so that we're saying that essentially he separated them from the defective sheep that Laban had originally left him with in order to propagate his own flocks. Let's take a look. Okay. Right. Vahaksavim he freed Yaakov. I said the lambs Jacob separated out. And Rashi says, Hanoladim, Akudim, Nikudim. These lambs that were born streaked and spotted, Hivdil, he separated out. Vahivridlatzman, he separated them to remain by themselves. Va'asa otan eder levado. And he made each one of these, right? All these lambs that were produced, he created into separate flocks. V'holich oto ha'eder ha'akud lifnei hatzon, and then he took that flock that was streaked or speckled lifnei hatzon, before the sheep, upnei hatzon ha'holchot acharehem, and the heads, right, the faces of the sheep that went after them, behind them, sofot alehem. They're looking at them. Vezehu she'nemar, and this is what is referenced when he says Pitnei Hatzon all right, that it says when he says the face of the sheep el akud, that it was towards the speckled sheep. Shahayu, he's explaining, Rashi, pnei hatzon, the face of the sheep, el ha'akudim, it was towards these speckled sheep, the el kol chum shematzah batzon Laban, and towards every brown sheep that he found amongst the I think here it means amongst the sheep of Laban. Vayashet lo adarim, and he says that he's Kamosha Pirash. He says just as I explained. He says he set up separate flocks. There were lots of sheep and lots of lambs, and he made separate flocks of them. Again, what's the point? Again, I can't say. All right, let me just find the place. Okay. Going on. V'haya b'chol yachem hatzon hamakusharot. And so it was that every time hamakusharot, we're talking about the sheep that were in great shape, right? That every time they went in heat, v'sam Yaakov et maklot leinei hatzon. And so this is stage 2, right? He now has fine animals, and now he places these sticks le'inei hatzon barahatim. Again, he's placing these sticks to in front of the eyes, literally, so that the sheep that are in the that are seeing the troughs see these leyachmena, in order to put them in heat b'maklot, by means of these sticks. See if there's any Rashi. It may not be. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, there is. Hamakusharot. So he wants to explain. Targumot habechirot. He says the choice, right? The Targum translates as bechirot, which would mean the choice sheep. Ve'ein lo ed b'mikra. He says there is no. This word makusharot is hapax legomena. In other words, there's no similar word in Scripture. Menachem is one of Rashi's teachers, or at least he's someone that possibly wrote a book that Rashi read. Chibro im Achitophel. He puts it in connection with Achitophel Bakoshrim. So in Samuel, in the second book of Samuel, which discusses the life of David, right? So there's, of course, Achitophel was an advisor of David's, his chief advisor, who actually wound up advising Absalom as to how to rebel against David. It's very, again, literature. What can I say? So Kosharim. So somehow there, okay, I think, I'm not certain, but I'm wondering. I think it means to rebel, but it's like
Conspirators, it
plotting.
says.
Yeah, I was going to say plotting, conspirators. Thank you. I just couldn't think of the word. Yeah, so koshari means conspirator. Thank you, but I knew it had to do with plotting. Sorry. Hopefully I'm spelling it correctly. Okay. All right. And Vahi Hakesher, I mean, it means the same in that same passage. It means that it was a very strong conspiracy. It was was powerful, the level of conspiracy.
And the last I there is an A, conspirators.
Oh, thank you. It
Okay,
didn't look
I have to
right. Thank
go.
you. Okay.
Bye, Rabbi.
Take care. Oh, we're very late. Thank you. I will. Thank you. Thank you, Lauren. It doesn't look. Sorry. Get it right. Thank you. All right. And I guess we're going to, let me just finish the sentence and then we'll stop. Otan hamit kashrot yachad lemaher iburan. So, okay. So I guess the idea is that kesher means to a knot, right? So the idea is that these people who are gathering together and in a tight together in figuring out this conspiracy. In other words, the level of secrecy and just sharing with one another. So he's saying, in a sense, that here we're talking about the sheep that would get together. They were in a tight formation in order to speed up their their conception, right, or their pregnancy, something like that. So, and this is probably a good place for us to stop. Okay. Well, thank you. Any comments before? David, you definitely picked a great section.
Well, I talk about getting into the details here.
I know, but the question, of course, that stays with me is why? What is this? There's got to be a good reason for this particular section beyond the general idea of how Jacob is able to avert the the manipulations of Laban, right? And he's just this doesn't stop at anything to cheat someone. Jacob, you understand Jacob's worked for him for 20 years, right? Shepherd, or certainly 14 years to shepherd his flocks. And he still wants to diddle Jacob out of a decent wage. So
Well, but you're looking at it the other way, Jacob is doing everything he can to make sure that things go
right.
his way.
So, I don't know. Is the story that if someone is trying to cheat you, you are open to finding ways to avoid being cheated? You have every right to
Yeah,
avoid being cheated.
yeah,
Although, I never liked the principle of two wrongs make a right. So on
yeah.
that note, I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay.